Introduction. There comes a point in life when the mind becomes too loud to bear, not from the chatter of people or the hum of the world, but from the endless noise within. Thoughts racing faster than you can catch them, fears whispering lies of failure and loss, and a heart that beats too fast for reasons it cannot explain. It's in these moments, when sleep refuses to come, when the smallest mistake feels catastrophic, when peace feels like a distant memory, that you realize your mind has become your battlefield. Anxiety is not a stranger to the modern soul. It has woven itself into the fabric of our daily existence, disguised as overthinking, constant comparison, self-doubt, or the quiet dread that something might go wrong. We wake up already tired, scroll through endless feeds searching for relief, and carry invisible burdens no one else can see. For many, this has become normal, but it is not. You were not created to live in constant inner chaos. You were made to live in peace. This audiobook is an invitation to return to that peace, not by escaping your thoughts, but by understanding them, not by fighting your fears, but by learning to listen to what they are trying to tell you. Anxiety is not the enemy. It's a messenger. It points to wounds that need healing, truths that need embracing, and boundaries that need rebuilding. Beneath the noise of an anxious mind lies a gentle, steady voice, the voice of calm, wisdom, and truth. Learning to hear that voice again is the beginning of your healing. Quieting your anxious mind doesn't happen overnight. It is not a single meditation, a single prayer, or a single deep breath that silences years of mental noise. It is a slow, deliberate journey of unlearning fear and remembering peace. It begins by recognizing the patterns that keep you trapped in overthinking. It deepens as you learn to rest your body, center your emotions, and reclaim control of your thoughts. And it flourishes when you discover that peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in a grounded, trusting heart. In the pages ahead, we will explore how to calm the storms within you. You will learn what anxiety truly is, not just as a mental condition, but as a whole body experience that affects how you think, breathe, and live. You'll discover how your thoughts shape your reality, and how small shifts in awareness can lead to deep emotional healing. You'll understand that your body is not betraying you when your heart races or your hands tremble. It's trying to protect you. And most importantly, you'll learn how to befriend your mind again, even when it feels like your worst enemy. This audiobook does not promise a life without worry. Worry is part of being human, but it does promise transformation. The kind that teaches you how to be calm in chaos, steady in uncertainty, and gentle with yourself in moments of fear. It is about cultivating inner stillness that cannot be shaken by what happens outside you. It is about becoming a peaceful presence in a noisy world. If you have ever felt trapped in your own head, if you've ever longed for silence that feels safe, clarity that feels freeing, and calm that feels real, then this audiobook was written for you. Let every chapter be a step toward that quiet space within you, where your breath slows, your thoughts soften, and your heart remembers what peace feels like. Chapter 1. The Storm Within. Understanding your anxious mind. There are storms that rage in the skies, and there are storms that rage within us. The ones within are often invisible, yet they shape everything. Our moods, our choices, our relationships, and our sense of peace. Anxiety is one of those inner storms. It does not always arrive with warning, nor does it always make sense when it does. One moment you're fine, and the next, your heart races, your chest tightens, and your mind begins to spiral into the worst possibilities imaginable. You may not see lightning or hear thunder, but inside, it feels just as powerful, just as uncontrollable. Anxiety, in its simplest form, is the body's response to perceived threat or uncertainty. It is the mind's way of saying, something might go wrong, so prepare yourself. In ancient times, this instinct was vital for survival. When our ancestors faced real danger, wild animals, enemies, starvation, their brains triggered what is known as the fight, flight, or freeze response. The amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure deep in the brain, would sense danger and send signals to release stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. These hormones quicken the heartbeat, sharpen focus, and prepare the body to act. Anxiety, in that sense, was once a friend, an alert system designed to protect us. But the world has changed. We no longer face saber-toothed tigers or life-or-death battles every day. Yet the amygdala hasn't evolved as quickly as our environment. It still reacts as if every challenge, an unpaid bill, a harsh comment, a looming deadline, a strange look from someone, were a matter of survival. The problem isn't that we feel anxious. The problem is that our modern minds are constantly activating an ancient alarm system that rarely turns off. When anxiety becomes chronic, the body begins to live in a constant state of alert. The brain scans for danger where none exists. Every unknown becomes a threat. Every silence feels heavy with meaning. The anxious mind overthinks everything because it's trying to gain control in a world that feels unpredictable. This overthinking is not weakness. It's the brain's desperate attempt to keep you safe. But in doing so, it exhausts you, draining your energy, your focus, and your joy. Imagine your mind as an engine designed to run at moderate speed. Anxiety presses the accelerator nonstop. You're burning fuel even when parked. Your body may be sitting still, but your mind is running a marathon through every possible scenario, most of which will never happen. You replay past mistakes, imagine future disasters, and question your worth in the present. Over time, this mental race takes a toll. The brain becomes hypersensitive, interpreting even minor discomfort as danger. The heart pounds, breathing quickens, muscles tighten, and the world begins to feel unsafe, even when nothing is wrong. Understanding anxiety begins with compassion. It is easy to label it as a flaw, to say I shouldn't feel this way, or I need to stop overthinking. But such thoughts only deepen the struggle. Anxiety is not your enemy. It is your body's way of trying to protect you, just a little too much. It is a messenger, not a monster. It tells you that something inside needs attention, perhaps unhealed fear, unresolved pain, or simply too much pressure. When you stop fighting anxiety and start listening to it, healing begins. Sometimes, anxiety forms through life experiences. A childhood filled with criticism or unpredictability can train the brain to expect danger. Traumatic events, heartbreak, loss, or chronic stress can keep the mind in survival mode long after the danger has passed. In such cases, the nervous system becomes wired for vigilance. The smallest change in tone or expression can trigger unease, not because you're broken, but because your brain learned to stay alert to avoid pain. Other times, anxiety can arise from chemical imbalances, hormonal changes, or even a lack of rest and proper nutrition. The storm may look emotional, but it is deeply physical too. The key to understanding your anxious mind is awareness. Anxiety thrives in confusion, but loses power in clarity. When you begin to notice your own patterns, the thoughts that trigger fear, the situations that make you restless, the body sensations that signal rising tension, you take the first step toward peace. You begin to see anxiety not as a vague force, but as a sequence of reactions you can observe and calm. Every anxious episode begins with a thought, often subtle and fleeting. It might be a what if that passes through your mind without notice. What if they don't like me? What if I fail? What if something bad happens? That small thought sparks emotion. Emotion signals the body to react. The body's reaction then reinforces the thought, convincing you that the fear is real because your heart is pounding and your stomach is tight. Thus, a loop forms. The mind reacts to the body, and the body reacts to the mind. The more you fight it, the stronger it grows. But when you observe it with gentle awareness, the loop weakens. Learning to quiet your anxious mind begins with curiosity instead of judgment. When anxiety rises, instead of saying, "Not again," you can ask, "What is my mind trying to protect me from right now?" Often, the answer is not danger, but discomfort, fear of rejection, uncertainty, or loss of control. These are not life-threatening, but the brain treats them as if they were. By reminding yourself, "I am safe right now," you begin to reprogram your nervous system to respond with calm instead of panic. As you journey through this book, you will discover that the mind can be retrained. The same brain that learned to fear can learn to rest. The same body that tenses at stress can learn to release. The storm may feel endless, but every storm eventually calms when you understand its rhythm. Before we move forward, take a quiet moment for reflection. Find a place where you feel safe and still. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath. Feel your lungs expand. Feel your shoulders drop. Ask yourself gently, what are the moments that make me most anxious? What thoughts usually come before I start to feel uneasy? What does anxiety feel like in my body? Tightness, restlessness, heaviness. What am I usually trying to protect myself from when I worry? You don't need to fix anything right now. You only need to notice. Awareness is the first light that pierces the storm. In time, you'll begin to see that your anxious mind is not your prison. It's a map. It's showing you where you've been hurt, what you fear losing, and where you long for peace. Understanding that map is the first act of freedom. The storm within may roar, but it is not endless. Beneath every wave of anxiety lies a calm ocean waiting to be rediscovered. The quiet truth that peace was never gone, only buried under the noise. Chapter 2. The Voice of Fear. How Thoughts Create Anxiety. If anxiety is the storm within, then fear is the wind that fuels it. It starts as a whisper, one stray thought, one mental image, one what if. Yet that single thought can grow so loud, so convincing, that it begins to shape your entire perception of reality. Fear doesn't always shout. Most times, it speaks in a calm, persuasive tone, weaving stories that seem true because they feel true. It tells you that you're not safe, not capable, not enough. It tells you that something terrible is about to happen, and that you won't be able to handle it when it does. The mind believes it, and the body follows suit. Before long, your heart races, your breath shortens, and your day is overtaken by an invisible battle. Every anxious feeling begins as a thought. Thoughts are the seeds that grow into emotions. The problem is not that we think, but that we often believe every thought we have. The human brain produces thousands of thoughts each day, fleeting ideas, judgments, assumptions, and interpretations, but not all of them are true. In fact, many of them are shaped by fear, habit, and past experiences rather than by present reality. The anxious mind confuses imagination with evidence. When it imagines danger, the body reacts as though danger were already here. This is where the connection between thoughts and anxiety becomes powerful and destructive. Our thoughts create the emotional atmosphere we live in. When your inner dialogue is filled with worry, the body lives in constant anticipation of something bad. When your beliefs are rooted in fear, your decisions reflect avoidance and control rather than trust and peace. Anxiety grows in the soil of distorted thinking. Cognitive distortions are mental habits that twist the truth. They are automatic patterns of thought that exaggerate, minimize, or misinterpret reality in ways that heighten fear. Imagine wearing a pair of glasses that distort everything you see, making small problems look enormous, or neutral events look threatening. That's what happens when your mind is caught in distortion. You might assume the worst outcome before it happens, interpret silence as rejection, or believe that one mistake defines your worth. These distorted lenses make it impossible to see life clearly, and as a result, anxiety thrives. One of the most common distortions is catastrophizing, the habit of assuming the worst possible outcome. A simple text left unanswered becomes proof that someone is angry. A mild headache becomes a sign of a serious illness. A small delay in progress becomes evidence that failure is inevitable. The anxious mind spins endless stories of disaster, each more elaborate than the last, convincing you that fear is logic and that caution is safety. But all catastrophizing does is keep you in a loop of anticipation and dread, robbing you of peace in the present moment. Another distortion is perfectionism, the belief that anything less than flawless is failure. Perfectionism is not about high standards. It's about fear of imperfection. It whispers, if I make one mistake, everything will fall apart. This mindset turns everyday tasks into tests of worthiness. You begin to measure your value by your productivity, your relationships, or the approval of others. And when you inevitably fall short, your inner critic grows louder. Anxiety feeds on this voice, reminding you of every flaw, every shortcoming, every unfulfilled expectation. You become trapped in an endless pursuit of control, chasing a standard that doesn't exist. Then there's excessive worry, the constant rehearsal of possible problems, as if worrying itself could prevent them. Worry gives the illusion of control. The anxious mind tells you that if you can think through every possibility, you can prepare for the worst. But the truth is that worry never changes the future. It only drains the present. It's like carrying an umbrella every day for storms that may never come. Worry doesn't protect you from life. It prevents you from living it fully. The good news is that thoughts, while powerful, are not unchangeable. The same mind that learned to distort reality can learn to perceive it more clearly. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most effective approaches to managing anxiety, is built on this simple truth. When you change your thoughts, you change your emotions and behaviors. CBT teaches you to become aware of your inner dialogue, to catch the voice of fear in action and challenge it with reason, compassion, and truth. Imagine that your thoughts are like people speaking in a room. Some are wise, calm, and supportive. Others are loud, dramatic, and irrational. When anxiety takes the microphone, it fills the room with panic. You're not ready. You'll embarrass yourself. Everyone will judge you. You'll fail again. CBT teaches you how to take back the microphone, to question the accuracy of those statements and replace them with more balanced, realistic ones. You learn to respond. That's not true. I've handled difficult things before. I may not control the outcome, but I can control how I respond. Talking back to fear doesn't mean denying your feelings. It means refusing to let feelings define truth. It means saying, I feel afraid, but fear doesn't mean I'm in danger. Fear may visit, but it doesn't have to move in. Each time you question your anxious thoughts, you weaken their hold. The brain begins to learn new associations, safety instead of threat, calm instead of panic. Over time, this practice rewires your mental pathways, creating a default state of balance rather than alarm. The power of CBT lies in awareness. When you start noticing the way your mind speaks to you, you can choose which thoughts to believe and which to release. The anxious mind tends to speak in absolutes. Always, never, must, can't. It creates rigid rules that leave no room for grace. But life is not absolute. Life is fluid, nuanced, and full of possibilities. Learning to think in shades of gray instead of black and white softens anxiety's grip. You begin to see that things don't have to be perfect to be okay, that uncertainty doesn't always lead to disaster, and that you don't have to know everything to feel safe. An important part of this process is cultivating self-compassion. Anxiety often convinces you that you must be strong, rational, and calm at all times. That weakness or fear makes you less capable. But healing begins when you allow yourself to be human. When you speak to yourself kindly in moments of fear, you deactivate the body's stress response. You send your nervous system a signal that says, it's okay. I'm safe now. Compassion is the language that quiets the voice of fear. There will be times when anxious thoughts return, louder than before. That doesn't mean you failed. It means your mind is practicing old habits. The brain doesn't unlearn years of fear overnight. But with each moment of awareness, each time you pause, breathe, and choose a kinder thought, you are rewriting your internal script. Slowly, fear loses its authority. The voice that once dominated your mind becomes just one of many voices, no longer the one that leads. The next time you find yourself caught in a mental storm, take a breath and observe what your mind is saying. Notice the words. Notice the tone. Is it kind or harsh? Is it factual or fearful? Ask yourself, is this thought absolutely true? What evidence supports it? What evidence contradicts it? Then, gently replace it with a balanced perspective. Even if things don't go perfectly, I can still be okay. Even if I feel nervous, I can still take action. Even if uncertainty remains, I can trust myself to adapt. When you learn to talk back to fear, you reclaim your power. You become the observer of your mind, not its prisoner. The voice of fear may never disappear completely, but it becomes quieter, smaller, less convincing. In its place grows a new voice, the voice of calm assurance, the voice that says, I can handle this. Your thoughts are not facts. They are stories your mind tells to make sense of the world. When you choose which stories to believe, you choose the world you live in. And when you begin to replace the voice of fear with the voice of truth, the anxious mind begins to quiet. Not because the world has become safer, but because you have. Chapter 3. The body keeps the score, releasing tension and emotional buildup. Anxiety does not live only in the mind. It lives in the body. Every worry, every suppressed emotion, every silent panic leaves a trace beneath the surface. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. It remembers the heartbreak you thought you moved past, the fear you never spoke of, the anger you swallowed, and the tension you've carried for years. Long after the moment has passed, the body keeps the score. It holds the memory of every unprocessed emotion in your muscles, your breath, your posture, and even your heartbeat. When you feel anxious, it's not only your thoughts that speed up, your entire body joins the race. Your breathing becomes shallow, your shoulders rise toward your ears, your stomach tightens, and your jaw locks. You may feel dizzy, restless, or fatigued without knowing why. This is not random. It's the body responding to what the mind perceives as danger. The nervous system, unable to distinguish between physical threat and emotional stress, prepares you for battle. Heart rate increases, adrenaline surges, digestion slows, and muscles stiffen, all part of an ancient survival mechanism that once protected our ancestors from predators. But in the modern world, the predators are deadlines, disappointments, and memories. The danger is psychological, yet the body still reacts as though it were physical. Over time, this constant activation creates what we call body armor, a physical manifestation of emotional stress. The neck and shoulders tighten from years of carrying unseen burdens. The back aches from the weight of suppressed responsibility. The stomach churns with unspoken fear. The chest feels heavy from unexpressed grief. Every part of you tells a story your words might never have told. The anxious mind may try to reason its way to calm, but the body must first release what it has been holding. Calming the body is not a luxury. It is a necessity for healing. The mind cannot find peace while the body is still preparing for war. That is why grounding practices and body awareness techniques are powerful tools for quieting anxiety. They remind the body that the threat has passed and signal the nervous system to return to safety. They anchor you to the present moment, away from the regrets of the past and the fears of the future. One of the simplest and most effective ways to begin this process is through breath work. Anxiety alters the rhythm of your breathing without you even realizing it. Instead of slow, deep breaths that calm the nervous system, you begin to take rapid, shallow breaths that feed the cycle of panic. The body interprets shallow breathing as a sign of danger, sending even more alarm signals to the brain. By consciously slowing your breath, you reverse this pattern. Each deep inhale tells your brain, "I am safe." Each slow exhale tells your body, "It's okay to relax." Try this. Inhale gently through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for 2. Then exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. Feel your shoulders drop as the breath leaves your body. Notice how your heartbeat begins to steady, how your thoughts slow down to match your breathing. Breath work is a conversation between your body and your mind, a way of reminding them that they are on the same team. Another powerful practice is body scanning. This technique involves bringing awareness to each part of your body, noticing where tension lives, and allowing it to soften. Most people carry tension without realizing it. They live with tight jaws, clenched fists, or hunched shoulders as if they were normal. A body scan helps you notice what has become invisible through habit. Close your eyes and imagine a warm, gentle light moving from the top of your head to the soles of your feet. As the light travels, it illuminates areas of tightness or discomfort. Breathe into those areas. Invite them to release. This mindful attention breaks the cycle of disconnection between your mind and body. Sometimes, releasing tension requires movement. Anxiety floods the body with energy meant for action. When that energy is not expressed, it becomes restlessness, irritability, or exhaustion. Gentle physical activity, stretching, yoga, walking, or even shaking out your hands, helps release trapped energy. It signals completion to the nervous system, telling it that the danger has passed. You don't have to force peace into your body. You simply have to give it space to remember it. Progressive muscle relaxation is another technique that helps reset the body. It involves tensing and then releasing different muscle groups, teaching the body the difference between stress and ease. Begin by gently tightening your fists for a few seconds, then release them completely. Feel the warmth that follows. Move to your arms, your shoulders, your legs, one area at a time. This practice retrains your muscles to return to a baseline of calm rather than staying locked in readiness. Over time, your body learns that it can relax without being in danger. Anxiety also thrives in disconnection. When your mind races, it pulls you out of the present moment. Grounding brings you back. Grounding is the art of returning to now, using your senses to re-establish connection with your surroundings. You can do this anywhere, at any time. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground. Notice the texture of the surface beneath you. Listen to the sounds around you, the hum of a fan, the rustle of leaves, your own steady breathing. Look around and name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This simple sensory reset pulls you out of your head and back into your body. When you practice grounding regularly, your nervous system begins to trust the present moment again. The body learns that it doesn't have to brace for the worst. It can rest in what is. And as the body relaxes, the mind follows. Anxiety is not only a mental storm, it is a physical imbalance. To calm it, you must meet it where it lives. To help you integrate these practices, here is a simple 5-minute reset you can do anytime anxiety rises. Wherever you are, at your desk, in a car, or lying awake at night, pause for just a moment and give your body permission to reset. Start by placing one hand over your heart and the other over your stomach. Feel your breath move beneath your hands. Take a slow inhale through your nose, letting your stomach expand first, then your chest. Hold for a heartbeat, then exhale through your mouth as if you're gently fogging a mirror. With each breath, imagine releasing tension, a sigh, a softening, a letting go. As you breathe, bring your attention to the parts of your body that feel tight. Perhaps at your shoulders, your neck, your jaw. Whisper silently to yourself, "It's safe to relax here." Let the tension melt down your body and out through your feet, grounding into the earth beneath you. For the remaining moments, focus only on your breath and the rhythm of your heartbeat. Nothing else needs to be solved right now. Nothing needs to be perfect. Just breathe. When you open your eyes, notice how the world feels a little slower, softer, quieter. That's the body's way of saying thank you. Your body has carried you through every storm you've ever faced. It may be weary, but it is wise. It knows how to return to calm, if only you allow it. Healing anxiety begins not with controlling thoughts, but with listening to your body's story, the one written in tension, fatigue, and restlessness. When you learn to release what it has been holding, you create space for peace to return. The truth is, the body was never your enemy. It has always been your ally, doing its best to protect you even when the mind misunderstood its signals. Every deep breath, every stretch, every grounding moment is an act of reconciliation, a reminder that safety lives within you. And when your body remembers safety, your mind will too. The storm begins to quiet not because life has become easy, but because you have found calm within yourself. Chapter 4. Silence isn't empty. The power of mindfulness and stillness. Silence has always been misunderstood. In a world obsessed with constant motion, silence is often mistaken for emptiness, inactivity, or even weakness. But true silence is not empty. It is full. It is full of awareness, peace, healing, and clarity. It is the space where life's noise dissolves and truth becomes audible. Beneath the chatter of your mind, beneath the hum of daily distractions, there exists a still space within you, a sanctuary untouched by anxiety or fear. It's always there, waiting for you to return. The journey toward a quiet mind begins with rediscovering this sacred stillness. An anxious mind is rarely still. It leaps between the past and the future, replaying old memories or predicting new disasters. It measures, compares, and analyzes. It seeks control because it fears uncertainty. But peace is never found in control. It is found in presence. Mindfulness is the art of being fully here, of seeing and accepting each moment as it is without trying to escape or change it. It is a practice of awakening from the trance of overthinking into the reality of now. When you are mindful, even for a few seconds, anxiety loosens its grip because fear cannot exist where awareness is whole. The practice of mindfulness is not a trend or a quick fix. It is an ancient art rooted in wisdom traditions across cultures and faiths. It teaches us that the mind is not the enemy to silence, but the instrument through which silence can be heard. Through mindfulness, you learn to observe your thoughts instead of being controlled by them. You realize that you are not your worries. You are the awareness noticing them. This shift, though subtle, transforms everything. Imagine sitting beside a flowing river. The water represents your thoughts, rushing, endless, sometimes calm, sometimes chaotic. Most of the time, you are in the river, swept away by its current. Mindfulness invites you to step out and sit on the bank. You still see the water flow, but now you are watching rather than drowning. You begin to notice patterns, how one thought leads to another, how fear disguises itself as logic, how stories repeat themselves. As you watch, the water slows. What once felt overwhelming becomes simply movement, temporary, harmless, passing. Stillness doesn't mean the absence of thought. It means the absence of attachment to thought. It's the gentle realization that you can let thoughts come and go without chasing or resisting them. This act of allowing is what quiets the mind. When you stop fighting your thoughts, they stop fighting back. When you stop labeling them as good or bad, they lose their power. Stillness is not forced. It unfolds naturally when judgment dissolves. Meditation is one of the purest ways to experience this stillness. Many people misunderstand meditation as an attempt to empty the mind or to stop thinking altogether. But that is impossible. The mind was made to think just as the heart was made to beat. Meditation is about noticing the rhythm rather than silencing it. It is a gentle return to awareness each time the mind drifts away. The practice may begin with mindful breathing, simply noticing the inhale and exhale, the rise and fall of the chest. With each breath, you are brought back to the present, back to the body, back to peace. At first, sitting in silence can feel uncomfortable. The mind, unaccustomed to quiet, will rebel. It will flood you with thoughts, tasks, memories, and restlessness. It will tell you that you're wasting time, that you should be doing something more productive. But this discomfort is not failure. It is the surface noise clearing. Beneath it lies stillness waiting to emerge. If you stay with the silence, even for a few minutes, you'll begin to sense the subtle calm that has always been there beneath the noise. You'll feel your breath deepen, your muscles relax, your heartbeat steady. That is your body remembering peace. The power of mindfulness lies in its simplicity. You don't have to retreat to a mountain or spend hours in meditation to find stillness. You can practice it in the most ordinary moments, while brushing your teeth, sipping tea, or walking down a busy street. All it requires is attention. When you bring full awareness to what you're doing, the present moment opens like a flower. Washing dishes becomes an act of meditation as you feel the warmth of the water, hear the clink of porcelain, and notice the rhythm of your movements. Drinking tea becomes a sacred pause as you taste, smell, and savor. Anxiety cannot coexist with full presence because the mind cannot worry about tomorrow while it is anchored in now. Gratitude is another doorway into stillness. When you pause to recognize what is good, your awareness shifts from what's missing to what's present. Gratitude grounds you in abundance rather than fear. Even in difficult moments, there is always something to be thankful for. The air you breathe, the sunlight filtering through the window, the resilience that carried you this far. Gratitude doesn't erase anxiety, but it changes your relationship with it. It reminds you that even in chaos, beauty exists. Sensory awareness deepens this practice even more. The body is a constant bridge to the present moment. When anxiety pulls you into your head, returning to the senses anchors you. Feel the texture of your clothes. Listen to the sounds around you. Notice the scent of the air, the temperature on your skin. Each sense draws your attention away from rumination and back into reality. The present moment is always quieter than the thoughts that cover it. Mindfulness is also an act of surrender. It teaches you to stop grasping at certainty and to trust the unfolding of life. Most anxiety comes from resistance, the need for things to be different than they are. But peace begins where resistance ends. When you can say, "This moment is enough," you disarm fear. Acceptance is not passive, it is powerful. It doesn't mean you approve of everything that happens. It means you choose to meet life as it comes rather than as you wish it were. In doing so, you reclaim your energy from worry and redirect it toward peace. Stillness, once cultivated, becomes a refuge you can return to any time. It's not a state you achieve, it's a space you remember. It's the calm that waits beneath the noise of every anxious thought. The more you practice being still, the more you realize that silence was never the absence of something. It was the presence of everything that truly matters. You will find that with regular mindfulness, life begins to feel lighter. The mind that once felt like a battlefield begins to resemble an open sky. Thoughts are still there, but they drift like clouds instead of storms. You respond rather than react. You listen more deeply, speak more thoughtfully, and breathe more easily. The world doesn't change, but the way you move through it does. Try this. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause for a single mindful breath. Inhale deeply through your nose and feel the air expand your lungs. Exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing tension with the breath. For just that moment, forget the past and the future. Let yourself simply exist. Notice that in that breath, you are safe, you are alive, and nothing is missing. That moment of awareness, simple, pure, unforced, is what it means to be still. Silence isn't a void. It is the birthplace of clarity, strength, and peace. When you learn to dwell in it, you no longer run from your thoughts. You rise above them. You realize that beneath every anxious whisper, there has always been a deeper voice waiting to be heard. The voice of calm truth saying, "Be still. You are okay. You have always been okay." Chapter 5. Healing from the Inside Out. Rewiring the Emotional Brain. True healing does not begin with the mind alone. It begins deep within the emotional brain, in the quiet places where pain has been stored and left unattended for years. Most people try to think their way out of anxiety, reasoning with it, suppressing it, or trying to control it. But anxiety is not simply a problem of thoughts. It is an echo of unprocessed emotion. Beneath the surface of racing thoughts and sleepless nights lie emotions that were never given the space to breathe. Grief you never fully mourned, guilt you never released, shame you've carried like armor, fear you've learned to hide. These emotions do not disappear simply because you ignore them. They settle into the body and wire themselves into the brain's emotional circuits, quietly influencing how you think, feel, and react. The brain is an extraordinary organ. It has the power to learn, adapt, and change even after years of conditioning, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. Every thought, every reaction, every emotional experience creates a physical imprint in the brain. Neural pathways, tiny connections between brain cells, form through repetition. The more a thought or emotion is repeated, the stronger its pathway becomes. This is why anxiety feels automatic. Your brain has been practicing it for years. But just as it learned to react with fear, it can learn to respond with calm. Healing is the process of teaching the brain new patterns of safety, peace, and acceptance. To rewire the emotional brain, we must begin by acknowledging the emotions we have been running from. Many of us learned early in life that certain feelings were unacceptable. We were told not to cry, to be strong, to move on. Over time, we build emotional walls to protect ourselves. But those walls, while meant to shield us, also trap the pain inside. Anxiety often arises when those hidden emotions press against the walls we've built. The body tenses, the mind spins, the heart races, all signals that something deep within is asking to be seen. Healing from the inside out means creating space for those buried emotions to surface without fear or judgment. When guilt arises, it is not an enemy, but a messenger reminding you that you are holding yourself to impossible standards. When shame appears, it's often a sign of an old wound that has not yet been met with compassion. When grief shows up, it's love with nowhere to go. Avoiding these emotions only prolongs their power. Embracing them begins to dissolve it. To process unresolved emotions, start with awareness. Sit quietly and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Go beyond the surface labels of fine or tired. Feel into the body. What do you sense? Heaviness, tightness, heat? Emotion lives in the body, not just the mind. Sometimes the only language pain has is physical, an ache in the chest, a lump in the throat, a knot in the stomach. By allowing yourself to notice it without trying to fix it, you begin to teach your nervous system that it is safe to feel again. Visualization is one of the most powerful tools for emotional healing because the brain does not distinguish strongly between imagined and real experiences. When you visualize peace, safety, or love, your brain responds as though you are actually experiencing it. Close your eyes and imagine a warm, golden light moving through your body, soothing every tense muscle and quieting every restless thought. Picture yourself releasing old emotions into that light. Watch them dissolve, not because you force them to, but because they no longer belong to the person you are becoming. Visualization communicates to the emotional brain in its own language: images, sensations, and emotion. It allows healing to occur at a level deeper than logic. Self-compassion is another key to rewiring the emotional brain. Anxiety thrives in self-criticism. Every time you blame yourself for feeling anxious, the brain interprets it as danger, reinforcing the stress response. But compassion tells the brain a new story, that it is safe to feel, safe to make mistakes, safe to heal. Speak to yourself as you would to a loved one who is suffering. Instead of saying, "I can't believe I'm still struggling," try, "It's okay that I feel this way. I'm learning. I'm healing." This gentle reparenting teaches your emotional brain that it no longer needs to fight for survival. It can finally rest. Affirmations, when used intentionally, also play a role in reshaping neural pathways. They are not mere words. They are signals to the subconscious mind that the story is changing. Each time you affirm peace, strength, or worthiness, you lay down a new mental track. The key is to feel the emotion behind the words. Saying, "I am calm," means little if the heart is racing and the mind is screaming otherwise. But when you pair the affirmation with deep breathing and the intention to believe it, even just a little, the brain begins to bridge the gap between what is and what can be. Over time, repetition turns that bridge into a new default pathway. Healing the emotional brain also involves facing pain with courage. Pain avoided becomes anxiety amplified. Pain embraced becomes wisdom. The goal is not to erase painful experiences, but to transform how you relate to them. When you can revisit a memory without reliving its pain, when you can see a past version of yourself and feel compassion instead of judgment, you have begun to heal. This is emotional integration, the point where your past stops haunting your present and becomes part of your strength. Neuroscience shows that emotional regulation begins in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning, reflection, and awareness. When anxiety activates the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, the prefrontal cortex can calm it down by signaling safety. Practices like meditation, journaling, and deep breathing strengthen this communication between the two regions. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over criticism, calm over chaos, you reinforce the neural pathway of safety. Slowly, the brain begins to favor peace instead of panic. Another aspect of healing is forgiveness, both of others and of yourself. Unforgiveness is emotional tension held hostage within the body. It fuels bitterness and keeps the nervous system on alert. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It means releasing the emotional weight that no longer serves your healing. It's telling yourself, "I refuse to let this pain define me any longer." In doing so, you reclaim the energy that anxiety once consumed. There will be moments when healing feels uncomfortable. Emotions you thought were gone may resurface. Old patterns may reappear. But this is not regression. It's release. The emotional brain is rewiring itself, shedding the layers that no longer align with your peace. You may cry, tremble, or feel waves of exhaustion as your body recalibrates. Allow it. These are not signs of weakness, but of deep transformation. Healing often looks like breaking before rebuilding. As you continue to practice awareness, self-compassion, visualization, and affirmation, you will begin to notice subtle changes. The triggers that once sent you spiraling begin to lose their power. Your inner voice becomes gentler. You start responding to stress with grace rather than panic. This is the evidence of rewiring, the brain learning that safety, not fear, is the new normal. Healing from the inside out is not a destination. It's a continual process of remembering your wholeness. Every moment you choose peace over fear. Every time you pause instead of react. You are building new pathways of strength and serenity. The emotional brain learns through experience, not theory. So be patient with yourself. Let your healing be imperfect, gentle, and honest. You were not born anxious. Anxiety was learned through experiences that taught your brain to protect you in ways that no longer serve you. Healing is unlearning those patterns and teaching your brain a new truth, that you are safe, that you are enough, that peace is your natural state. When you begin to see anxiety not as a flaw, but as a signal, not as a curse, but as a call to heal, you realize that the power to transform has always been within you. The emotional brain does not resist healing. It only waits for permission. When you give it that permission, when you listen to your pain with compassion instead of fear, you begin the most powerful kind of recovery, the kind that changes not only how you think, but who you become. Healing from the inside out is a quiet revolution. It is not dramatic, but it is profound. It's the moment when the heart begins to trust again, when the body finally exhales, and when the mind remembers that calm is not something to chase. It is something to return to. And in that return, you rediscover what anxiety had hidden all along. That beneath every layer of fear, shame, and guilt, you were never broken. You were simply waiting to heal. Chapter 6, Faith, Purpose, and Perspective, Anchors for an Unshakable Mind. Anxiety is a creature of uncertainty. It feeds on doubt, on unanswered questions, on the unknown corners of the future. It thrives when life feels unstable, when we lose our sense of control or can't see what lies ahead. In those moments, the mind races to fill the silence with worry, searching for something solid to hold on to. But the truth is, peace is never found in perfect certainty. It is found in faith. Faith is the quiet strength that whispers, even if I don't know what will happen, I know I will be okay. It is the anchor that steadies the mind when everything else feels like shifting sand. Faith, in its purest form, is not blind belief. It is trust. It is the decision to trust life, to trust God, to trust that there is meaning in the moments that make no sense. Faith does not remove storms, but it gives you roots deep enough to withstand them. When anxiety says, "What if everything falls apart?" Faith replies, "Then I will rise again." When fear says, "I can't handle this," faith answers, "I am not alone in this." There is something profoundly healing about surrendering to a power greater than yourself. The anxious mind, driven by the need to control, often carries the weight of the world on its shoulders. It tries to plan every outcome, fix every problem, prevent every disappointment. But no human being was built to carry that much. Faith invites you to release what you cannot control and to rest in the assurance that something wiser and stronger is at work. It tells the mind, you can rest now. You are held. Spiritual calm does not mean the absence of fear. It means fear no longer defines your choices. It means that even when your heart races, your spirit knows peace. Many people find this through prayer, through meditation, through sacred texts, or simply through moments of quiet connection with nature. Whatever the form, the essence is the same, a turning inward and upward, away from the noise of anxiety and toward the still voice that says, "Be still and know." Purpose, like faith, is another anchor that steadies the anxious mind. When you know why you exist, when you have a sense of direction that transcends momentary discomfort, you stop being tossed around by every wave of uncertainty. Purpose gives meaning to pain. It transforms suffering into strength. It reminds you that even the hardest seasons of your life can be part of something bigger than fear. Without purpose, anxiety becomes the loudest voice in the room. With purpose, anxiety becomes background noise compared to the song of meaning that plays within. Many people lose peace not because they have too much fear, but because they've lost their sense of why. They wake up each day running through routines, reacting to stress, surviving instead of living. But when you reconnect with purpose, when you remember that your life is not random but intentional, you begin to see every challenge differently. Anxiety shrinks when the soul expands. Even the simplest purposes, like loving others, growing in wisdom, or making a small difference in your community, can give the heart something to live for beyond worry. Perspective completes the trio of anchors that make the mind unshakable. Where faith provides trust and purpose provides direction, perspective provides understanding. It is the ability to step back and see the bigger picture, to realize that not every difficulty is a disaster, that some endings are beginnings in disguise, and that even pain can be a teacher. Perspective allows you to see your life not as a series of random events, but as a story unfolding with intention. It softens anxiety because it reminds you that storms, too, have seasons, and none of them last forever. One of the most liberating shifts you can make is to stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That single change turns fear into growth. It transforms anxiety into awareness. Every challenge becomes a classroom in which the soul learns resilience, patience, and trust. Perspective shows you that even in the darkest valleys, light is still shaping you. It teaches you to look beyond the moment and to trust the process of becoming. Gratitude is one of the most practical ways to strengthen faith, deepen purpose, and restore perspective. Anxiety focuses on what is missing. Gratitude reminds you of what remains. When you begin to notice the good that still surrounds you, the breath in your lungs, the people who care, the lessons you've learned, the weight of worry begins to lift. Gratitude doesn't deny the pain of life. It simply refuses to let pain be the only story. It reorients the heart from lack to abundance, from fear to faith. Faith, purpose, and perspective together create a kind of inner sanctuary, an unshakable center that remains still even when life spins out of control. When these three are alive within you, anxiety loses its grip because you no longer need everything to make sense. You trust that life is leading you somewhere meaningful. You trust that you are guided, even when you can't see the next step. Throughout history, countless people have endured unimaginable challenges, loss, hardship, uncertainty, and yet found peace through these same anchors. They discovered that while pain is inevitable, despair is optional. What separates those who break from those who grow is not the absence of struggle, but the presence of faith and meaning. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote that even in the most brutal circumstances, those who held on to meaning could endure almost anything. Purpose gave their suffering a reason. Faith gave them hope. Your own story may not mirror theirs, but the principle remains. When life becomes uncertain, you can return to these three truths. You are not alone. Your life has meaning. And this moment, however painful, is not the end of your story. Anxiety thrives on the illusion of isolation, on the lie that you are powerless and forgotten. But the moment you remember your connection to something greater, God, purpose, community, love, anxiety begins to lose its power. Faith tells you that you are guided. Purpose reminds you that you are needed. Perspective assures you that this, too, shall pass. Together, they create a stability that no external chaos can destroy. Take a quiet moment to reflect. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what do I believe in when everything else fails? What gives my life meaning beyond fear? What truth can I hold on to even when I cannot see the outcome? Let the answers come softly. You don't have to force them. Even the act of asking reconnects you to what is sacred within you. You might find that your faith lives in simple things, the kindness of a stranger, the rhythm of your breath, the sunrise after a sleepless night. You might find that your purpose isn't grand or distant, but quietly present in your daily acts of love and perseverance. You might realize that perspective doesn't mean escaping pain, but understanding that you are growing through it. These realizations are not small. They are transformative. When faith, purpose, and perspective guide your life, you stop being a prisoner of uncertainty. You begin to flow with life instead of fighting against it. You become unshakable, not because storms stop coming, but because you've learned that the anchor within you is stronger than the storm outside you. So when anxiety begins to rise, when the mind fills with what ifs and the heart feels restless, pause and remember what holds you steady. Whisper to yourself, I may not know what tomorrow brings, but I am not alone. My life has purpose. This moment is part of something bigger than my fear. Then breathe deeply and let that truth settle in your soul. Faith turns uncertainty into trust. Purpose turns chaos into meaning. Perspective turns pain into wisdom. And when these become the ground beneath your feet, your mind finds peace that no storm can take away. You become anchored, not to fear, but to faith. Not to uncertainty, but to truth. Not to anxiety, but to a quiet, unshakable calm that reminds you, you are never adrift. You are always held. Chapter 7. Living Light. Building a peaceful mindset for life. There comes a point on the healing journey when calmness is no longer something you have to chase. It becomes who you are. You stop searching for peace as if it were hidden somewhere outside of you, and instead begin to live from it, breathe from it, and carry it wherever you go. This is the essence of living light. It is not the absence of challenges, but the presence of steadiness. It is the art of walking through a noisy world with a quiet soul. To live light is to understand that peace is not a momentary state. It is a lifestyle, a daily practice, a choice you make again and again. You build in small moments, through the habits you nurture, the boundaries you set, and the way you speak to yourself. Every day becomes an opportunity to align your life with serenity rather than stress, and to move through your days not as someone struggling to find balance, but as someone who is balanced. Morning is where peace begins. The way you start your day shapes the tone of your mind. Before reaching for your phone, before scrolling through the noise of other people's lives, sit with yourself. Let the day begin in silence, even if only for a few minutes. Feel your breath. Notice the stillness around you. Whisper something kind to yourself. Today, I will live gently. Today, I will move at peace with myself and with life. This is not an act of indulgence. It is an act of preparation. A peaceful morning becomes armor for the day ahead. As the day unfolds, mindfulness becomes your companion. It's easy to forget peace when the world rushes at you with demands, noise, and uncertainty. But mindfulness reminds you that every moment is an invitation to return. You return with a deep breath in traffic, a slow exhale before responding to an email, a quiet pause before reacting to frustration. You learn to live from awareness instead of reactivity. This doesn't mean you never feel anger or stress. It means you feel them consciously. You let emotions pass through instead of allowing them to stay and poison your peace. Journaling is another powerful tool for living light. The mind can only hold so much before it begins to overflow. Putting your thoughts on paper is like releasing the pressure valve of the soul. It transforms confusion into clarity and emotion into understanding. You can use your journal as a sanctuary, a place to release fears, record gratitude, and track growth. Write honestly, without judgment. Let your words be both a mirror and a map. When you look back, you will see not just struggles, but strength, evidence that you have grown lighter over time. Evenings are sacred in the life of a peaceful mind. The world may have demanded much of you, but night is the time to return to yourself. Create rituals that help you unwind. A warm bath, a prayer, soft music, or a few minutes of stillness before bed. Reflect gently on the day. What brought you peace? What challenged it? And what can you release before tomorrow comes? Forgive yourself for the moments you fell short. Gratitude and forgiveness are the twin doors that close each day in peace. When you sleep with an unburdened heart, you wake lighter. To maintain this calmness, you must also protect it. Peace, once found, must be guarded with care. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates that decide what enters your inner world. You cannot live light if you constantly carry other people's storms. Learn to say no without guilt, to walk away from noise that unsettles you, to distance yourself from environments that thrive on chaos. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is sacred responsibility. You cannot pour light into others if your own flame is constantly dimmed. Self-care becomes the foundation upon which all peace rests. True self-care goes beyond candles and comfort. It's about the decisions you make daily to honor your mind, body, and soul. It's choosing rest over burnout, nourishment over neglect, reflection over distraction. It's recognizing that your worth is not tied to your productivity, that slowing down does not mean falling behind. The more you take care of yourself, the more resilience you build to handle whatever life brings. A peaceful life is not created through control. It's sustained through care. Acceptance is another vital key to living light. Life will never be free of uncertainty, disappointment, or change. But peace does not require perfection. It requires permission. Permission to be human, to feel, to stumble, to begin again. Acceptance doesn't mean complacency. It means you no longer waste energy resisting what already is. You stop asking life to be easier and start asking yourself to grow gentler with it. The moment you release the need to fight every imperfection, your heart becomes lighter, and so does your mind. Living light also means learning to detach with grace. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every opinion needs your defense. You start to understand that peace isn't found in having the last word, but in knowing when silence speaks louder. You no longer seek validation in being right. You find contentment in being calm. You no longer need to control outcomes. You trust that whatever is meant for you will not require constant struggle to keep. Detachment isn't indifference. It's emotional maturity. It's learning that you can love, care, and hope deeply without losing yourself in the process. Gratitude remains the thread that ties this peaceful way of living together. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. When you live with gratitude, the smallest things become sources of joy. The warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a friend, the taste of your favorite meal. Gratitude slows time. It reminds you that life is happening now, not somewhere in the future you're trying to reach. The anxious mind constantly reaches forward. The grateful heart remains still and full in the present. Over time, living light becomes less about effort and more about essence. The practices, mindfulness, journaling, reflection, become natural, woven into the fabric of who you are. You begin to notice how your reactions soften, how your speech becomes slower and kinder, how your presence calms the spaces you enter. People may not understand it, but they feel it. The quiet strength, the steady energy that comes from someone who has made peace a habit, not a goal. Quieting the anxious mind is not a single event. It is an ongoing relationship with yourself. It is choosing, moment by moment, to return to calm when life pulls you away from it. It is the daily decision to respond with awareness instead of fear, compassion instead of criticism, acceptance instead of control. It is forgiving yourself every time you forget and returning to stillness every time you remember. Living light means you are no longer at war with yourself. You begin to realize that the peace you were chasing was never hiding. It was simply buried beneath layers of fear, noise, and expectation. Now that you have peeled those layers away, what remains is simplicity, clarity, and freedom. You see that the mind was never the enemy. It simply needed guidance. You see that anxiety was not a curse, but a teacher, leading you to discover the depth of your own resilience. In this new way of living, you no longer measure your days by productivity or perfection. You measure them by peace, by how present, grounded, and grateful you felt. You start to prioritize what truly matters: connection over competition, presence over pressure, authenticity over approval. You stop rushing through your life and begin to inhabit it fully. To live light is to live consciously, gently, and courageously. It's the courage to be calm in a world that glorifies chaos. It's the gentleness to treat yourself and others with kindness, even when life feels harsh. And it's the consciousness to know that every breath, every choice, every quiet moment is shaping the person you are becoming. As this journey closes, remember, peace is not the reward at the end of healing. It is the companion that walks beside you as you heal. It is the quiet voice that says, no matter where you go, I am here. Living light means carrying that voice with you into every season, trusting to guide you back to calm when the world grows loud. So step forward lightly, not because life is easy, but because you are no longer heavy. You have learned to release what you cannot carry, to forgive what you cannot change, and to trust what you cannot see. You have learned that the quiet mind is not an empty one. It is a mind filled with grace. And in that grace, you will find that peace is not something you visit. It is the home you are always meant to live in.